July 30th, 2024. Daily Bread. Passage, 1 Samuel chapter 30, verse 16 to verse 31. Key verse, 23. Title, David defeats the Amalekites. He led David down, and there they were, scattered over the countryside, eating, drinking, and reveling, because of the great amount of plunder they had taken from the land of the Philistines and from Judah. David fought them from dusk until the evening of the next day, and none of them got away, except 400 young men who rode off on camels and fled. David recovered everything the Amalekites had taken, including his 2 wives. Nothing was missing, young or old, boy or girl, plunder or anything else they had taken. David brought everything back. He took all the flocks and herds, and his men drove them ahead of the other livestock, saying, "This is David's plunder." Then David came to the 200 men who had been too exhausted to follow him, and who were left behind at the Besor valley. They came out to meet David and the men with him. As David and his men approached, he asked them how they were. But all the evil men and troublemakers among David's followers said, "Because they did not go out with us, we will not share with them the plunder we recovered. However, each man may take his wife and children and go." David replied, "No, my brothers, you must not do that with what the Lord has given us. He has protected us and delivered into our hands the raiding party that came against us. Who will listen to what you say? The share of the man who stayed with the supplies is to be the same as that of him who went down to the battle. All will share alike." David made this a statute, an ordinance for Israel from that day to this. When David reached Ziklag, he sent some of the plunder to the elders of Judah, who were his friends, saying, "Here is a gift for you, from the plunder of the Lord's enemies." David sent it to those who were in Bethel, Ramoth Negev, and Jatir, to those in Aroer, Ziphmoth, Estimoa, and Rakal, to those in the towns of the Jerahmeelites and the Kenites, to those in Hormah, Bor Ashan, Athak, and Hebron, and to those in all the other places where he and his men had roamed. Daily Bread Message. The Egyptian slave led David to the Amalekites, who were all drinking and reveling in their plunder. So David and his men fought them and thoroughly defeated them. They also recovered everything taken, including the people. What once was the plunder of the Amalekites was now David's plunder. When David and the men came back, they were met by the 200 men who were too exhausted to continue. Some among David's followers did not want to share the plunder with those who stayed behind, but David made it a statute that those who stayed with the supplies would share equally with those who went to the battle. He taught them in this way that it is the Lord who protected them, and it was the Lord who delivered their enemies into their hands. His deliverance is for all. Upon returning, David sent some of the plunder throughout Israel. It was a sign of encouragement and a message from the Lord who delivers. Prayer. Lord, help me to depend on your protection and deliverance in all things. Help me to claim your victory and be a source of encouragement. One word, the Lord delivers.